same. What's the word I'm looking for? Common difference, not the same. So how do you go from 1 to 4? Add 3. And then 4 to 9, uh-oh. It doesn't mean it's not a sequence. That is a sequence of numbers. It's actually a really exciting sequence. It just means it's not arithmetic. Who has figured out what those numbers are? Alex, you got it?
It's the thing that it goes up by is, like, number that it goes up by 2.
Not quite, not quite. Those are very special numbers to a mathematician. Those kind of excite me, actually. 1, 4, 9, 16. What would the next number be? It is 25.
They're squares.
They are the perfect square numbers. So yes, it's a sequence because the first term is 1 squared. The second term is 2 squared, 3 squared. They're just not arithmetic. So no, not arithmetic. So we don't need to do increasing, decreasing. We don't need to do the d-value. Turn and talk. Turn and talk is you just find someone sitting around you, you talk about this example, go through the 3 things you need to decide, come to a common consensus. Turn and talk. I hear an overwhelming conclusion of yes. Increasing or decreasing? And the d-value is? Who agreed with all 3 of those things? Awesome. I'm going to go to this box, and you're not going to like this at the beginning. I'm going to show you some new notation. And it's going to seem really weird at the beginning. And you're going to be like, WTH, what the heck? Just bear with me here. There's actually a little formula for calculating d. Why do we need a formula? We can do it in our head. Well, yes, but we're going to have sequences later that are harder, and you may not be able to just do it in your head. So I like to highlight. I also like to do things in red, so I'll tell you when I've grabbed my red pen. So if you're a color person too, you can grab a different color. So I have grabbed my red pen. And the formula is d equals, you're not going to like this, t with a subscript of n minus t with a subscript of n minus 1. Now that's math notation. So I have told you in math language exactly what that formula means. Because you're still learning math notation, and math to you really is a second language because it's not the first language you speak. At the beginning you're like, what? It's just like if I rattle off a sentence in French and you're not a native French speaker, at the beginning it's going to seem really odd. What do you think T stands for? So what do we call the numbers in a sequence? What do we refer to them as? Yeah. Take a guess. I love it. And what do you think the T actually stands for? It does. So it's how we identify the numbers. We need to call them by something, because I can't always say the 6th number in that sequence. Yeah, Xander. It is term. High five to you. T stands for term. So we call it term 1, term 2, term 3. If I said term 17, it means the 17th number in the sequence. So T stands for term. What do you think T subscript N stands for? Well, what this means is any term. A non-specific term. The subtract means subtract. What does that notation mean? Well, what does it mean if you minus 1? It means you're going to the number in front of it. So if this, for example, was term 7, this would mean term 6. If this meant term 11, this would mean term 10. If this was the 100th term, this would mean the 99th term. This is math speak for the preceding term or the term in front.
So basically, to translate it, I just want to make sure I got this. The common difference is any term minus the term that comes right.
You got it. Take any term in the sequence and minus the one in front of it.
Yes.
That's math speak. Again, math is a second language for you, so we're going to spend a lot of time with me telling you what all this stuff means. This means take any term you want. So if we look at the first term, or the first sequence, let's take the 11. What's the term in front of it? 8. So what's 11 minus 8?
3.
That's what D is. Let's say you're like, no, no, I don't want to use the 11. I want to use the 8. Okay. What's the term in front of it? 5. So 8 minus 5 is? What if you're like, no, no, no. No, I want to use the 5. Okay. Well, what do you subtract from it? The 2. And what's 5 minus 2? 3. And what if you're like, no, 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 I want to use the 2. Well, you can't. Why not? Because there's nothing in front of it. This is just English for take any term you want and subtract the one in front of it. We use math notation because it's universal. You don't need English words to understand it. How are you feeling so far?
Pretty good.
Everybody else? You were like the quietest class I have all day. I'm going to give you a formula, our very first formula of the year, and it's a formula to find a specific term in an arithmetic. I appreciate that enthusiasm. It excites me too. So sometimes you can just write patterns out and you can see what the 7th term, for example, is, or the 8th term. But what if I said, find the 300th term? Would you want to write out the sequence? Probably not. So that's what this formula is for, is just to be able to find a term quickly. And then I'll tell you when we go through the examples, why would we need to know that? So it starts with Tn, which we just talked about that notation. What does Tn mean? Any term that you want. The right-hand side of the formula starts with T1, and that is a subscript. What do you think T1 means? Term 1, the first term, plus, and I'm going to open a bracket, n minus 1, closing the bracket, and I'm timesing it by d. There's your very first formula. Tn equals T1 plus n minus 1 times d. Then I define for you, in case you forget, Tn is a specific term or any term, T1 is the first term, n is the number of terms, and d is the common difference. Every time we come to a formula, somebody's going to ask me, do we need to memorize this? And what am I going to say? I'm going to say, check your formula sheet. That's why I gave one. Where is your formula sheet? If only I had given you a specific spot to put your formula sheet so you could find it quickly.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, right. Where's your formula sheet? Okay, so you look at it, find if it's on there. The other reason I want you to look is so that you know where it is on that sheet. So on exam day, when you're in a little bit of an exam panic, you can find it quickly. So first of all, is this on the sheet? Where is it on the sheet? It's the first formula. So you may want to put yourself a note on formula sheet, or don't memorize, or don't need to know. You might want to make a note for yourself, because as we go through, some will be on there and some will not be on there. Yeah, the crayon kind of made me happy, actually.
It kind of makes me feel like a little kid.
Okay, so let's go to our page, example number 1. Here is a typical question. There's very little words in it because mathematicians don't like words. They told you that we want to find T5, so we know right away that's what we're looking for. They've told us, whoa, what the heck is an AP? Capital A, capital P. What the heck? Arithmetic, progression. Let's just put that down in red pen. IB uses that a lot. Again, we tend to call it sequences. British term is progression. IB likes it. Arithmetic. Progression. And now this is the part somebody usually says, no one has yet, but you're quiet. Well, that's just stupid. Why do we care the way British does it, and blah, 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 and we're Canadian, yay. And I always go, okay, who's been around longer? Because it's not us. Who's been around longer? Who brought us math? So as Canadians, who brought math to us? The British. So they get to do whatever they want because we're just the babies. Who brought the math to the British?
The Greeks?
The Greeks and the Romans. Who brought the math to the Greeks and the Romans? The Arabians. High five to you. That's where it all started. So they decided it's actually us that calls it something different. That was a big segue there. Yes, I want you to pause on that, and I will tell you when I'm done the examples.
Okay, well,
Wait, you're gonna pause. You're gonna pause. You're gonna pause. We're given T1 as 2, and we're given D as 3. So So I'm going to show you the baby mathematician way to do this. So if you were in grade 4 or 5 and you don't know anything I've taught you so far, the baby way to do this, and there's nothing wrong with it, is you're going to start with the first term is 2, and then you're going to add the common difference. So the next term we know is, maybe we don't know, 5. And then, okay, we can get the third term from that is 8, and yay, okay, that's got to be the fifth term, so I'm done. Valid way to do it. There's nothing wrong with doing it that way. The problem is, what if I asked you for the 50th term? What if I asked you for the 5,000th term? Do you want to do it the short way or do you want to do it the baby way? Right? So there's nothing wrong with that when you don't know any other way to do it. But let's do it the non-baby, the adult mathematician way. Adult mathematician way is the formula Tn equals T1 plus n minus 1 times d. Tn is the term I'm looking for, and the question is asked for term 5. So I'm going to take out that n and put 5 because I know specifically what the question has asked me for. T1 is the first term. It was given. It's 2. So I'm taking out T1, substituting in 2. N at the bottom of the term on the left is the exact same as the n that's in the brackets on the right. If I'm looking for the 5th term on the left, I know that n is 5 on the right. The minus 1 is just part of the formula. It's minus 1. And the d value I've been given is 3. So for the left-hand people, what I did is I substituted the T1, the n, and the d. I left everything else alone, except the n over here, I should say. Hey, brackets stay where they were, plus signs stay where they were, negatives stay where they were. This now becomes just a BEDMAS question. So what do we do first in BEDMAS? Why do we have BEDMAS? What's up with that? So why? Why do we need BEDMAS? Yeah. Why does that matter? Why does the order matter? Exactly, and everything in the world has an order. The example I used yesterday, which I'll use again today, is imagine I wanted you to bake me a cake. But I said to you, no, take the recipe, and the order doesn't matter. Just do whatever you want first. So you put it in the oven before you open the box and before you mix it and before you add the eggs. How's that cake going to turn out? Great. What about something simple as doing laundry? What if I said, oh, no, the steps don't matter. You can put it in the dryer before the washer. How's that going to work for you? Yeah, you're going to have a bunch of wet clothes that probably don't smell so good. Okay? Everything in life has an order. That's why math has an order. That's all BEDMAS is. It's the recipe. It's just telling you the steps you need to do stuff. Whew, off on a tangent again. B stands for? Now here's where we've lied to you. Canadians, we're not really good at distinguishing between different kinds of brackets. So these that we love to call brackets actually aren't brackets. What are they? Parentheses. They are parentheses. What are these guys? Now, we tend to call them square brackets. What are they really? Brackets. Those are brackets. So the top are actually parentheses. The bottom are actually brackets, although we call them round brackets and square brackets. Then there's these curly ones that we tend to call curly brackets. They have a name. What was that big sigh for? What was that sigh for? What? No. Okay, so what are the bottom ones? We'd like to say that, but they're not. They're actually called braces. I always think of little braces on teeth. And so if you go anywhere else in the world, they don't use BEDMAS. They use PEDMAS as the acronym. Why would they use PEDMAS? Because it's parentheses. We're the only one that's off there. So if you ever go to an international school, or maybe you're looking through an IB textbook next year and you see PEDMAS, you're like, they spelled it wrong. No, it's just us. And actually, the States uses PEMDAS. What? PEMDAS. And so why the P, parentheses, why did they switch the D and the M? You guys already know the answer to that. Does the order of the B and the M and the D matter? So they use PEMDAS instead. And then they have an acronym that says, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. That's what they use. There's a little history for you. Okay, so we do brackets first, which means we're going to go to that 5 minus 1, which is 4. Then we do the multiplication, which means we're doing 2 plus 12, and the fifth term is 14. Find me the 500th term in this sequence. Find me the 500th term in this sequence. What's the only thing that's going to change in the formula? The n, because the T1 is still the same and the D is still the same. The only thing that's going to change is that little n. What's 500 minus 1? Who are the lazy people in the room? Because I didn't do that learning style with you yesterday. Who are the lazy people? Okay, so if you're a lazy person, I'm going to show you as we go through examples when you're allowed to skip steps. Listen up, lazy people. Doesn't even know I'm talking to him. No concept. He's not an auditory learner at all. Totally not even paying attention to me. He'll figure it out. Don't tell him, it spoils the fun. He'll figure it out. Eventually. I think he's actually writing out the 500 terms. But he'll figure out we're talking about him. He'll figure it out. Don't worry. Keep laughing. Not auditor at all. No concept. No good. Hey, what you doing? Yeah, I've been talking to you for the last 2 minutes and you haven't noticed. Yeah. Okay, so I was just saying, who are the lazy people? And somebody pointed to you. No judgment. If you're a lazy person who hates writing out the steps, I'm about to show you some ways you're allowed to cheat, so you probably want to pay attention. I think that was a little fake, but I'll go with it. Here's a place where you can skip the step. If you just want to cross this out and put 499 and not write it out, I'm fine with that. Okay, so I will show you when you can condense and when you can't, so there's no surprises on the test when I'm like, you didn't show enough work. If from there you want to go straight to the answer, I'm fine with that. So if you can't do 499 times 3 in your head, maybe you can do 500 times 3. Can you do 5 times 3? 15. So 500 times 3 has to be 1,500. And you minus 3 to do 499 times 3. So we're at 1,500 minus 3. Say it again louder. 1,497, and then plus 2. And if you needed a calculator, we're okay with that as well. Questions so far? Read example number 2. Did I say do example number 2? I said read example number 2. So example number 2 has way more words, less symbols, but is it asking you anything really different?
Not really.
Okay, so I'm a highlighter. If you're a highlighter person as well, make sure you have a highlighter out, because especially when we start word problems, which this is just a baby word problem, I like to highlight keywords. And if you hate, let's fess up, who hates words problems? I know, me too sometimes. I'm going to show you tricks throughout the semester to do word problems better. So one of the first ways is to highlight the key things, and this is important for visual people because we like things to stick out. But it's also really important for other kind of learners because visual is not your strength. So if you start getting in the habit of doing visual stuff, your visual skills get better. What is important? Find is not important because find to a mathematician, whatever. We don't care if we're finding, calculator, solving, it doesn't matter. What is important in this question? Term 10 is really important.
Attention grade 9 students participating in the Human Rights and Holocaust Study Program. The first educational session is today at 4 o'clock p.m. in room E1. All students must attend.
Following, we don't really care. For right now, I don't even care it's arithmetic because we don't know anything else yet. I will care when we do the other type. What else do I care about? The sequence. So all those words are irrelevant to a mathematician. If it asks to find a term, you only have one formula, so you're jumping right to it. Tn equals? Just give me the formula. T1 plus n minus 1 times d. We are looking for what term? So I'm putting a 10 in for the n. T1 is there. It's just not as obvious in the last question, but we know it's the first term in the sequence. So what is T1? The n on the left matches the n on the right. And how do we find d? We have that little formula that I told you in words what it means. It means you get to pick any single term you want and subtract the one before. So pick any one of the terms you want except the first one and subtract the term before. Offer of minus 2. And we'll pause and we'll finish off tomorrow. No, that was always the plan to finish tomorrow. Erin, I need to talk to you after class, please.